now. And Josh, thank you so much for your time. What we'll do is just a series of questions. There's no wrong answers. This is all just to get to know you, and we're interested in understanding who's using Dimension and what motivated them to try it out and what they expect out of it. So
Okay.
do you have any questions for me before we start?
No, I think it all seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, cool. Great. Well, here we go. Let's see. First question. Where do you live?
LaPorte, Indiana.
Okay.
And that's 2 words. First word LA, second word PORTE.
Okay. How's the weather there right now?
It's cold, and we're supposed to get a lot of lake effect snow tonight. We're right off Lake Michigan, so we're supposed to get about maybe 9 inches total, possibly.
Ooh, that feels cold just saying it.
yeah, it's. I'm not looking forward to it.
I'm sorry. Well, maybe it'll be cozy over the weekend.
Yeah, I'll start a fire or something.
Good. Oh, and so, Josh, what do you like to do for fun?
Oh, Tough Mudder.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
how many?
I've done 4 of them, and then
Nice.
a half of one, so 5 events total. But
all right, well, we could get into all this later, but I have done 2, and I guess a half of one because of lightning storms.
Oh, that's cool. Where are you located? You're on the West Coast somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco, but we went, I've done all the ones I've done in Tahoe, and the most recent one was 2 years ago, and they shut us down at the top of the mountain because it was lightning. So
the lightning. Yeah, that's
they couldn't do the water ones.
Well, it just makes electroshock therapy more effective, I guess.
Yeah, pretty effective, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very cool. Well, good to know a fellow mudder.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool.
So let's talk about your work. So what's your title?
Design and development, and it's for a small product development firm called USA Product Design Group.
Okay.
So we design a lot of consumer electronics. A lot of it's been geared toward like the golf industry.
Okay. Electronics for golf.
Yeah, GPS on board to give you distances on the course.
Neat. My in-laws would love that.
Oh yeah, they're big golfers, huh?
Yeah. Do you golf?
I don't. I mean, I like to golf. I'm just very bad at it. My my boss is an excellent golfer, though.
Okay. Yeah, I've only been one time on an official golf course, and I didn't do too badly, but I would never say I'm a golfer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, tell me more about your company. So you said it's small. How many people?
Right now, there's only me and my boss pretty much working on it. We have a global team, though, but we work with a lot of different companies.
Okay. And what does a typical project look like?
Oh, man. So we generally design everything from the ground up. So we'll start with like the 2D sketches, and then we'll work with some 3D engineers to output some 3D. And I mean, usually we'll start with an idea of what type of components we want to start with. So we get an idea of basically the size of the PCBA, and then we'll build around that.
Sorry, what's a PCBA?
That's with the circuit board.
Okay. So you get from the 2D sketches, and with the 2D sketches, is this based on like a product requirement set and like talking to customers and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Our customers generally have an idea of what they're aiming for, and they usually undershoot on the size. They want the smallest possible thing with the biggest possible performance, and you know, it's our job to kind of find the medium.
Okay. And so then you go from 2D sketches to the to working with the engineers who make the 3D models. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. And then, there's various prototyping stages, and
Mm-hmm.
it all gets refined throughout the process.
And do you know what it does it vary? I mean, I'm sure it varies, but like, let's take the project you're working on right now. What 3D software is being used?
SolidWorks.
Okay.
That's typically what we work with
Mm-hmm.
for both modeling and especially outputting renderings. When I get involved with 3D, it's generally on the rendering side as
Okay.
opposed to the modeling side.
You do some modeling?
I would like to. I'm not really all that familiar with how SolidWorks works, but I'm familiar with 3D programs such as like 3ds Max and Blender, things like that. So I was excited to see Adobe kind of getting into the waters there.
Yeah.
I love the Creative Cloud suite. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So it sounds like you're well versed in that area. Do you use Creative Cloud products in your pipeline?
Oh yeah. I use I pretty much live in like Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign. Those are the three main ones I use.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to delve more into Dimension.
Okay. And so talk to me more about the project workflow. So you've got your prototyping phase, and I understand that kind of like is a cycle, right? You build it, and then you test it, and then you build it again.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So after we have like the PCBA set up and we have some working firmware, we'll go into like a rough prototype stage,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll make refinements from there. And there's usually 2 to 3 rounds of prototyping before we get into mass production. And then shortly before mass production, the last round of prototyping is what we call engineering samples or off-tool samples.
Okay.
That's when all of the tooling is in place. It's basically the first run of plastic parts off of the tooling.
Okay.
And then there's some final fine-tuning to it, and then we're ready for mass production.
Got it.
Usually it takes, the whole process takes 6 months at the very fastest, but usually more like 9 or 12 months.
Got it. And are you working with manufacturers here in the States or overseas?
Mostly overseas. We do have some contacts here that we've worked with, but most of our manufacturing is in Shenzhen.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the factories in Shenzhen have headquarters in Hong Kong.
Got it. Yeah, that's really cool. So where in the process is the rendering? Do you use renders to communicate, to show to clients, or talk me through that?
That's generally pretty early on. After we have the 2D sketches, we try to get some rough 3D in place to start some renderings just to give an idea of where it's heading.
Mm-hmm.
And then off of that, we usually like to print some SLAs too, 3D printing.
Okay.
Yeah, just so we can hold it, and that gives us a better idea of where we want to make some revisions and how to best achieve those revisions.
What kind of printer are you using for the 3D prints?
We don't have one on hand, so we outsource it. There's a group near us when we have it done and we need it fast. There's a group about maybe 20 miles away, and they do a lot of like modeling for the medical industry, dentistry, and stuff like that. But they output some SLAs for us from time to time when we need it. Otherwise, our ODM over in Hong Kong, they can output them also.
Got it. And those are from the SolidWorks files?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so back to rendering, because that's where our wheelhouse is at the moment.
Yeah. Right.
So who do you show renders to? Maybe we can talk about that.
Well, we use for our clients, obviously, but we use them throughout the process. Generally, we even will output marketing renderings that are used for all marketing purposes, websites, print ads, whatever it might be. We generally use rendering over photography just because it's usually a better result.
Excuse me, pardon me.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
That's cool. So you've tried both and you gravitate towards the rendering?
Yeah. We've done photography one time since I've been with the company, and that was for some titanium watches that we had. The rendering, we couldn't really match the refractions that the titanium cases would give off. These were for a GPS watch that we did for golf.
Okay.
We had a titanium case, and so we did photography for that one, and they turned out pretty decent. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, rendering's always the better way to go.
Yeah. So let's see, you're rendering straight from SolidWorks, is that right? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a plugin for it. I think it's called PhotoWorks 360.
Okay.
And that's what we use.
And for clients, for when you're mocking things up, do you put the product with any sort of background or anything like that?
Yeah, I usually make custom backgrounds in Photoshop, and a lot of times because of what we do, we'll have custom lenses. We find that the best way to do it is to take the basic model that we output from SolidWorks, and then I'll bring it into Photoshop and I'll overlay our lens designs and our different screenshots, anything from the user interface that we want to show.
Yeah.
So we call it a Frankenstein process. That's our internal lingo for it.
So talk me through that, because I'm really curious about that process. So you start with the SolidWorks model, and then you also create the background in Photoshop?
Yeah, so one cool thing about SolidWorks is when you output a rendering, it'll output an alpha file with it. So you just erase the center portion, which is the shape of the project or the product, and then you drag that into Photoshop on a layer, and you can just quickly delete the background around the photo or the rendering. Okay. So the product is on a transparent background then, and then I'll just build, whatever custom background behind it. And I just like to, use different gradients and blending modes and things like that in Photoshop. Just usually do them on the fly.
Are you, then to create the look of depth, do you put shadows back into the image?
Yeah, absolutely. And I usually do that just with Photoshop effects. The rendering will have some lighting and shadowing that looks pretty realistic, and then I'll usually just enhance it with Photoshop.
Okay. Okay, cool. And with that process right there, are there any challenges? Big challenges for you, pain points?
I would say that the biggest challenge is probably the rendering time. Because if we want to output some really high quality renderings, it's usually a matter of hours to do so.
Okay. And that's using the plugin for SolidWorks?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
What's a turnaround for this? Like, are you trying to get things out faster? Is that what you need to do for the client?
Yeah, it's usually a couple of days. My boss does most of the rendering out of SolidWorks, and then he'll get them to me, and usually a day or two, just depending on how much they're leaning on us, pushing us for it. So. But, we try to take our time and do it right, make it look as good as possible.
Yeah. The client always wants things for less time and less money, right?
Oh, yeah. And it better look as good as it possibly can, too, It's the way of the world.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So So how would you describe the work you produce yourself? Like the main jobs that you do, like the main, I make blank every day.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. What do I make every day? Well, I mean, this past year has been different than what we've done in the previous years. We've kind of we've been working a lot with Bluetooth lately, so I don't know. I guess we're into the whole Internet of Things world nowadays, and that's kind of a whole new concept. So I'm really not sure how to answer that question.
Okay. I mean, some people would say, you know, I make, I was just talking to somebody that makes packaging mock-ups, you know, but it sounds like you're making renders, but you're also doing concept stuff.
I do a lot of the packaging stuff too. I'll create the custom die lines in Illustrator and do the layouts, and so I do that. I do a lot of the technical writing. I'll lay out the user manuals. Every day is a little bit different. You know, some days we're not even into the design side. We're more into the IC side. We're trying to procure, you know, whatever we need to send our manufacturer to, you know, whatever components they need to build the circuit boards and whatnot. So there's, it's every day is a little bit different. It just depends on what the hot items are, I guess.
Got it. For the packaging process, what's your workflow there? Are you using Illustrator?
Yep. So we'll get an idea of what the client wants, and we'll probably usually lay out, you know, 3 or 4 different die lines of what we have in mind, and we'll mock them up, and then they'll choose one that they like, and then we'll just refine it from there.
And is the client looking at the die lines as a flat image?
Yeah. I'll usually send the flat image, and I'll usually mock it up too. Sometimes I'll do digital mock-ups. Sometimes I actually print them out and then cut them out by hand and actually construct them.
Wow.
So it just depends. Yeah.
What makes it so that you would have to do that versus send a flat? Is it just
well, sometimes I'll come up with a new die line we haven't tried before, and then I'll want to cut it out and actually see if it'll work or not, and where I need to make the tweaks to it.
Got it. Okay. And when you say you sometimes you do a digital mock-up, what does that mean for you?
So I'll take the die line, and then in Illustrator I'll just create a visual image of what it would look like all folded together. So it's still a 2D image, but, you know, in 3D space, if you will.
Yep. Cool. And then for technical writing, you're making manuals for distribution, and where do you do that work?
InDesign.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll do the layout in InDesign. Any supporting images will obviously go through like Photoshop or Illustrator if it's a vector image.
Got it. And are you working at all with like some people doing tech manuals have to like explode out parts of a CAD file or a 3D file? Are you doing anything like that?
No, we don't. I've seen that in a lot of like power equipment manuals where they'll have an exploded view of like engine parts and replacement parts.
Yeah.
We don't really have a lot of replacement parts as far as that goes, so we haven't had to really get into anything like that.
Right. Your stuff is so small too that
Yeah, exactly. Most people are wearing it on their wrist, or, you know, clipping it to a golf bag or something.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so you've got the renders, the packaging, the tech writing. Are there any other like kind of end products in the process that you are doing all the time?
Not really so much anymore. on this, but in the past, I've created some interactive demos of some of our products. For example, I created a flash demo of a Bushnell watch that we did, and it was actually I created a couple of those, and they were used at the PGA Merchandise Show in Orlando, where people could actually come up and interact with it, and it would basically show them the whole UI of the watch.
Oh,
it even
wow.
kept proper time. Yeah. So
was that displayed on like a computer screen or like a?
Yeah, it was a monitor with touchscreen. So
Okay.
they could actually go up and press buttons on it, and it would work just like the watch worked. I haven't done one of those in a couple of years. We haven't really done any products that required it in probably 2 years though. So
okay, but that's generally
I
for a promo, for like a special event or something like that.
Yeah, like trade shows, things like that.
Cool. All right, you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We being a small team, we both have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. Hey, actually, do you mind telling me, like, how did you get to this job? I mean, it's such a cool. It seems like pretty niche part of the industry. What's your path here?
Well, I studied graphic design. I have an associate's degree for visual communications. And, before I graduated, I decided, I'm not going to wait to graduate to start looking for a job in the field. I'm just going to go for it. And I actually found this job listed on Craigslist. There was an ad for it. It was in my town. Yeah, it was in my town. I was like, oh, okay, I'll reply to it and see what happens. And,
no way.
I wasn't sure what to expect of it. But yeah, he called me up and I had an interview, and like a few weeks later, he brought me on. So,
that's awesome. And how long have you been there?
Yeah. Almost 7 years. February 2011 is when I started.
Wow, that's cool. That's really neat that you can keep such like a light team, but keep moving on to different projects. That's unique.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I mean, it's stressful at times. There's a lot of moving parts, and we're dealing with people in Europe and Asia, over on the West Coast, wherever,
Right.
It's like I said, we have a global team of people that we work with. So.
Right. That's really cool. And when you say global team, you're there's different parts of the process that you are outsourcing.
Yeah, and in fact, another big part of the process that we outsource because we have to is all the various certifications. In the world of electronics and RF, there are so many different certifications that vary by country. So for the U.S., there's FCC requirements for anything that can send or receive RF signals. So FCC for the U.S., CE for Europe, RoHS for Europe. We're working on a project now, and I can't get into a lot of details with it, but it's a GPS tracking device that uses 3G and also Bluetooth. And that one has introduced us to an entire new world of certifications and regulations that we were previously unfamiliar with.
Oh, boy.
So there's a lot of research that goes on for that, too.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Okay. I don't envy that. That's the kind of stuff that's why I didn't go to law school.
Oh, right. Yeah. It'll make your head spin sometimes, Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, so let's see. So you've been at this job 7 years. It sounds like you're really enjoying it. So that's awesome. What does it mean to be successful in your role?
I think, I would quantify that as making the customer's vision a reality.
Awesome.
To take this concept that's an idea, and it starts on paper, and then pretty soon you're field testing it. You know, you've got it in your hands and you're doing the software testing and all of that stuff.
Yeah. That
And
must
then
feel
once
so
it hits
cool.
the market, that's success. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see the first prototypes. And then, you know, once you have the final packaged product, you know, it's in the box, you've got the manual, everything's right there. That's what it's going to look like on the shelf. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's definitely, that's how I would quantify it.
That's neat. Do you ever walk into like a shop where your stuff is sold and you just kind of look at it?
Yeah, I have, you know, I mentioned Bushnell earlier. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're a pretty big company.
Yeah.
We did a few GPS golf watches for them, and I walked into a Dick's Sporting Goods in South Bend, which is near here, and they were selling one of our watches.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. Really neat. Awesome. Okay. So let's talk about okay, let's go back to the software track because that's what I'm working on.
Okay.
So are there any types of software you wish you had in your line of work?
I wish I had more access to 3D software where I could actually do some modeling. I work on a Mac, and there's not really a lot available as far as 3D for Macs. Like SolidWorks doesn't even make a version. I'm not sure about like the Autodesk programs, if they're available for Mac or not. But I was, like I said, I was excited to see Adobe starting to get into that realm.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for this.
All right. Hopefully we can live up to your vision.
Yeah.
And so talk me through that. Like what, if you could have your perfect 3D software, what would it have in it? What features?
Well, first of all, it would be nice to be able to import certain files that we work with, such as IGES and step files. I'm sure you've heard a lot of that. And, you know, I did see on the Dimension thread, somebody mentioned that you can open an IGES file in Photoshop and then output it as an object file. Then that object file can be opened in Dimension. So, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
so
Photoshop
that's a workaround,
has
at least.
a really robust export capability. So for now, as we build our own, we suggest people rely on that. So, okay. So,
do you know, can Photoshop also open a step file? Or just
I'm
IGES?
not sure about that, but I know for sure it can do IGES.
Okay, I'll have to try it. We'll see what happens.
Try it out.
Okay.
So what else would it? What other features would this magical software have?
Well, it would be great if I could import like some 2D out of Illustrator and then begin to build a model off of that, and you know, really get in there and fine tune it and output a really detailed 3D model out of Dimension.
Okay.
And then I know it's got the render capability, so.
Got it.
Yep. Those would be the big things on my list.
Okay.
Although when I say, you know, a finely detailed model, I guess that would include texturing and things like that. And I think Dimension may do some of that now. I haven't played around with it a lot. Once I couldn't open a step file with it, I kind of, you know, closed it.
Yeah, yeah, understandable. Do you play around a lot with textures in the SolidWorks workflow?
Yeah, a little bit. We really just have what's preloaded in there. I'm not sure how SolidWorks would work with if I were to do like a custom texture in Photoshop and then import it into SolidWorks. I'm not sure how it would come in. I know 3D I've worked with in the past, like 3ds Max, you can do that.
Yeah. And
get the results you're looking for. But yeah, SolidWorks, I haven't really done it so much.
So you've done some work in 3ds Max?
Yeah, that was just as a student though. I've never done anything with it, you know, professionally.
Yeah, seems like everyone takes a bit of it in school and then They're like, forget that.
Yeah. Well, one thing with Autodesk is their software is very expensive. And, I really, one thing I love that Adobe has done is going to the monthly subscription on the full Creative Suite. That was a stroke of genius.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like that. It's funny that it's a very polarizing thing that happened. So,
right.
Some people love it. Some people don't.
I'm sure.
Cool. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just reviewing my question list here. Okay, so let's talk about that dream software then. So how would it impact your projects if you could create those detailed models yourself?
I think it would really streamline it. It would streamline it because we could do everything on the one computer, the Mac we use. That's a graphics computer, and if we could do everything within the Adobe Creative Cloud suite, it would just streamline it and make it so much more efficient.
Yeah. And then the Mac you're using, is it it's a desktop, right?
Yeah, it's an iMac with the Retina display.
Nice. What year is it?
It's great for graphics. I think it's 2 years old.
Okay. Nice beefy machine. Do you?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Do you work on any other devices?
Yeah, I have an older laptop. It's got CS5 on it.
Oh, nice.
So it's outdated. It works in a pinch, but I mean, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the Creative Cloud has.
Okay. But you'll never give it up.
Right. Yeah, hey, I paid for that,
We get that too. We get it. And then any sort of do you do any work on a mobile device at all, even sketching or anything like that?
A little bit. I've got Adobe Draw on my iPad Mini, and I also had it on an older Android phone. I've used it a little bit, but not too much.
Okay. Would you use it? Do you use it on any actual client work?
I have. There's one quick start guide that I did an update for where I sketched some stuff by hand. Some of it was on the pad. And I did that so I could import it quickly, and it worked out well. Okay,
cool. But that's not a regular thing.
No, that was out of the norm.
Okay. And do you use any sort of Wacom tablet?
I don't know. No.
Okay. Great.
It feels unnatural to me to draw on a screen like that. I've never gotten the feel for it.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay, so talk to me about the last time you tried a new software. Was that when you tried Dimension, or have you tried anything else recently? Okay.
Actually, there's a number of new Creative Cloud apps that came out recently, and I installed a few of them and opened them up. I can't remember all the names of them right off. I'm actually going through them right now. Cool. Let's see. So I looked at Spark. I looked at Character Animator.
Cool.
Let's see here. And Character Animator, I have high hopes for that one too. I have some ideas I want to work on with that.
Yeah.
Thought there was another. I thought there were a couple of. There's a packaging. There's a packaging one. I can't remember what it's called. I'm not seeing it right off. Yeah. So there were a few of them that I looked through. I think I looked through Dimension a little more thoroughly than the others. Just because that one has instant practical uses.
And so yeah, I'm curious mostly about when you're looking at new stuff, what motivates you to try it?
Well, in this case, it's really just a description of it. I'm
Okay.
like, so with it, I guess part of it is going to be the reputation of the company that's putting the software out. And I
Mm-hmm.
know Adobe's reputation. So, I have no problem testing something new that you guys are putting out.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I guess that would be it. A mix of the company reputation and then the description of what the software does. Does it pertain to what I want to do or not?
Okay. So the description definitely pertains to your circumstance. That's great.
Yeah, it jumped out at me.
And you said when you first saw it, you were hoping it would do some modeling.
Yes.
Okay. And now that you know that it doesn't, I mean, do you still see it as a possible way to use it in your workflow?
Yeah, I mean, now that I know that I can open an IGES and hopefully a step file in Photoshop and then output the correct file type to open it in Dimension, I plan to at least revisit it.
Okay, cool. And where would you envision using it in your workflow? I mean, you have many different workflows, I know, but
it would be on any of the rendering phases, whether it's an early 3D model and we just want to get an idea of what it looks like, or if it even outputting a marketing rendering.
Okay. Cool. And so, and how many times have you opened it? Do you know?
Just once. Yeah, I just gave it the first initial run through. I followed the tutorial a little bit just to kind of familiarize myself with the UI. So
cool.
Yeah,
what did you think
I
of
have
the
not
tutorial?
opened it since. Oh, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
It seems like it's very intuitive.
Okay, great. So if you could, well, knowing what you know about Dimension, what are the major things you would change about it?
Well, I guess the first thing would be the modeling,
Yeah.
the add modeling ability to it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I haven't played around with it too much. There was one part where on the tutorial, it had me drag a background into place. And there were some alignment points that they were included with that preset background. And I guess I would be curious as to how to create my own backgrounds and apply those alignment points to them. So everything comes in and looks the way that it should.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that feature is, you can use it on any image that you want to import. So if it can find that horizon line, then it will apply it to the image, to the scene. There's some. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, is there any manual control over that? So say if I were to output a custom background from Photoshop and it couldn't find the alignment point, could I manually set it?
Yeah. There's a tool in there. It's at the bottom of the tool bar, and it looks like a little grid kind of tipped over.
Okay.
That's where you use to set your own horizon point.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. Good stuff.
Cool. So the number 2 thing we've already got in there. That's great.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay. And we're almost done here. Thanks for working with me on this. So, yeah. Do you do any creative work outside of your day job?
I do sometimes. Usually it's just personal stuff or something for friends. I do try to do a little bit of freelancing, but those like websites like Freelancer and it used to be Elance. I think it's called Upwork now. They're just so oversaturated with foreign competition that they really undercut the pricing. I don't really look at those too much anymore.
Yeah, that's tough. And what kinds of projects do you do when you do the stuff for friends or for yourself?
Usually somebody will want like an invitation or a flyer or maybe even a logo done.
Okay.
One friend of mine does like body work for cars and motorcycles. Sometimes
Mhm.
he'll have a sketch that he'll give to me, and he'll want me to clean it up, and I'll put like a vector from Illustrator for him.
Okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my husband he's a 3D animator by trade, but his whole family hits him up for all the graphic design stuff.
Oh, right.
So that's kind of how it goes. So when you're doing any sort of work, either for professional or for fun, is there a place where you post your work or share it? Any like either social media sites?
Yeah. I have a portfolio website that I just got done working on recently, so
Okay.
that's where I don't put everything up there. I try to keep that simple. Just I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to like overwhelm people with everything. I guess it'd be hard to put like everything up there. I don't
Oh
know.
gosh,
That
the
probably
full-time
take
job.
weeks of. Yeah. Well, you have to go through and pick what you want to show, and yeah.
Yeah.
Who's got time for that?
Did you for the website? Is it something you built, or is that just something you used a template for?
No, I use the template for it.
Yeah. Cool.
Just make it as easy as possible.
We made it super confusing at Adobe because the Behance group created this whole new product called Portfolio, which is a way to make your own portfolio website through Behance. So sometimes I have to ask, like, is it from Behance or no? Anyway. Cool. And then where do you go for inspiration? Do you like, especially when you're ideating, do you go to look at other sites or other designers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. We'll usually start and see what the competition is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we always keep a close eye on Apple too, because Apple
Mm-hmm.
does everything just so perfectly.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. So we always keep an eye on what they're doing. And if it's a new product, we're delving into a new area, we'll see what other people that are already in that industry are doing. And then, we'll take what they're doing well and then, try and do it better than they do it.
Yeah. Okay. And are there any sort of blogs or websites that you visit on a regular basis?
No, I wouldn't say so. Usually, I'll just check out whatever Google brings up. So there's not like a one-stop source that I'll generally go to first.
Got it.
Well, I guess Google would be that one-stop source.
Yeah, I know. What did we do without Google?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So, I know. A couple other questions about Adobe stuff. So, do you ever use Adobe stock content?
No, like the photo stock,
Yeah.
things like that. I don't. No,
Okay.
no.
Cool.
I've never looked at it. I'm familiar. I know it's there, but I've never checked it out.
Yeah. Did you know that we have 3D assets up there?
I did not know that.
Well, now you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out a little further then.
Yeah. We've got not just models, but also materials. So, new textures you can put on surfaces, and then lighting environments as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to know is if you're thinking about Dimension and the other Adobe apps that you already use, how would you ideally have them work together? Like, are there any interop points you'd like to see? Oh, well, you told me the one about Illustrator. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that would be the starting point. I'd definitely have Photoshop in there also, just for texturing, things like texturing and backgrounds. Yeah, they would just all work together, and because it's all Adobe, like I said, it would just be very streamlined that way.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, and then if you're comfortable, I'm also gathering some information about kind of just general demographics. So I'd like to know these things, but you don't have to tell me.
Okay.
So I'd like to know, how old are you?
I am 38.
All right. I'm almost 38, so right there with you. Are you married?
I am. Yep.
All right. And do you have any kids?
Yeah, we have one daughter.
Oh, great. Very cool. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know that it's late on a Friday, so I hope you get to start your weekend, and really appreciate it, Josh.
It was fun. Thanks for inviting me to this. You know, it was definitely cool. So anytime, you know, reach out to me anytime.
Yeah, we will. And along those lines, so a couple things. I'll be sending out the gift card, and you should see that either probably not tonight, maybe Monday, that'll come through.
Okay.
And then
All right.
the other thing is we have opportunities to have you give early feedback on things. So the first one is we have a forum that you can add feature requests to and vote on other feature requests and all that kind of stuff. And you can access that right inside the app in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little widget that pops down. So that's a cool thing. That's like no obligation. You can just do that whenever you want, and you can go in and vote for things that you've already talked about, like, you know, 3D modeling. Like if you want to see that, then you can vote for it.
Okay.
And that's what our product team looks at to see, like, okay, what do our customers want us to build? And then the other thing is we have a pre-release program that is, you know, we select our most enthusiastic and supportive customers, such as yourself, to download non-public versions of the builds. So before they ever features get released, that way you can test them out, give us your feedback, and then tell us what you think. So if you're interested in that, I can also add you to that.
Yeah, I'd love to be part of that. Your software testing is part of my daily job, so you know, I could probably find things other people may not.
You're the bug getter. We always like that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I will add you to our pre-release, and you should see that coming through as a invite from the official Adobe site. And let's see. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, that was all very straightforward. I look forward to all the follow-up stuff.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Josh, and have a wonderful night. I hope you guys get through the snowstorm that's coming.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Yep, you have a good weekend.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Yep, you too. Bye.
Bye.